Welcome back to another video and the first interview of 2021. My name is Jakub from P2P Empire, and today's special guest is Andrejus Trofimovas, who is the CEO of Aventus Group, the largest finance group on PeerBerry. In today's video, we'll be discussing the financial performance of Aventus Group, as well as answering all of the questions that you have submitted to us on P2P Empire. So without further ado, welcome to the interview, Andrejus.
Thank you. Hello. Nice to see you.
For the investors who don't know you yet, can you shortly introduce yourself and briefly describe the history of Aventus Group?
Okay, thank you, Jakub. So, I'm Andrejus Trofimovas. I'm CEO of Aventus Group, and I'm on this position close to 5 years already. Before that, I was a member of the board of Aventus Group as well, so I also was doing some other project at the same time. But currently, almost 5 years, I'm working or involved like a CEO of group. So I'm quite deeply involved in operation issues of the company, and company is quite big now, yeah, so actually this is only my activity at this moment.
Last year was quite a challenging year for a lot of lending businesses. Can you maybe describe how did you react to the current pandemic and what current measures you have taken to protect investors' interests?
Okay, thank you for the question. 2020 was a very interesting year for us and for everybody. For Aventus, it was quite positive year. I can say we earned a significant amount of profit, so more than 10 million euros. Already we know it. Yeah, we had a highest turnover ever. By the way, so for us it was very positive year. But of course, it was not easy to achieve, and it was really challenging. I can say that we were quite prepared for the situation. Of course, we didn't know that COVID will happen. It was surprising for everybody. But we had a quite significant amount of money on our accounts just to protect our investors, to protect our business. So for us, it was not a big issue to pay back all the debts for investors who wanted to take money from a platform, right? And you remember that it was quite challenging time for all the platforms, for many loan originators in other platforms, but we managed to do it on time without quite big problems. The biggest problem for us was that we slowed down issuing volumes during 3 months, I would say from March to June, but then everything recovered. And at the end of the year, in November, December, we had the highest turnover in our history. So, in general, I can summarize that the year was challenging, was very interesting. Definitely, we tested all of our procedures, all of our risk procedures, treasure everything, and we definitely fulfilled all of our goals. What was most interesting, actually, in our case, was that our team increased twice. Actually doubled within 2020. So in the beginning of 2020 we were close to 600 people working in the group, and we finished the year with almost 1,200 team members in several locations. So I can say that the difference in our group was that we were not firing people from the group, we were not decreasing salaries even during these challenging times. Actually, opposite. We did opposite things. We hired more people because we understand that this is quite a rare opportunity to find very serious people from the market. And you know, in our business, people is everything. Because it's quite a narrow business, it's not easy to find people who are specialists in this business, and it was a rare opportunity for us to collect such people and add to our group. And because of this crisis, I would say we become much stronger than before. All of our financial numbers improved within this year. Again, it's quite surprising, because we still are in financial business, which was not easy for everybody, but we managed to do it. And it was actually done mostly because we had a very experienced team on the board. We had no newcomers. Everybody in our group had significant experience from banking, finance, from other fields, and already proven record. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we succeed.
So that's a very extensive answer indeed. Maybe I will go a little bit back and ask about what concrete measures have you taken in the lending business. I know you mentioned you decreased loan volumes, but when it comes to the risk, what did you change in comparison to 2019? How did you make the risk assessment better? Can you maybe comment on the concrete steps that led to the success of Aventus Group last year?
So I can answer this question. So first of all, what we did in March, April, we slowed down volumes, but the main idea was to pay out all the debts for those who wanted to take money from P2P. So this was a number one goal, and we didn't think about issuing loans during this time. So like March, April, the main goal was to pay back all the debts. So we decreased our debt to P2P more than twice, by the way, within 2 months, but we did it without big problems. We had cash on our account, plus we slowed down issuing. So this was the first goal. Later on, because we had kind of break in issuing loans, we had the opportunity to review all the scoring policy of our group in different locations. But all the decisions were very different, because, for instance, in Russia, we increased issuing loans because we understand that this COVID doesn't influence too much, because the state people who were working for state and still getting salaries was significant among our customers, so they were not affected at all. So in Russia, for instance, we moved forward. In other countries, for instance, like in Poland, we understood that or Ukraine, for instance, quite a lot of people were, like, how to say, damaged with this, so we slowed down. In Kazakhstan, we have also a situation with lockdown where we just couldn't issue loans according to legislation, because in every country we had a different situation. But in general, I can say that we become more careful with lending, of course. We definitely decreased lending for those who could lose their job, because we definitely don't want to deal with people who are not paying back. Yeah, but for instance, people who are working in restaurants, I don't know, in small businesses, we understand that they definitely can lose job. So we, again, in different countries there were different solutions, but in general we decreased issuing loans for those. But for other category of our customers who were, for instance, working for state, we changed nothing actually. And what we also understood that the market decreased. Yeah, so a lot of competitors stopped issuing loans, and for us it was extremely good opportunity to increase volumes, especially in these segments which were good for us. Other interesting detail was that advertising cost decreased like 3 times. So we had quite a unique opportunity within maybe 4 or 5 months just to increase our market share on the main markets with significant less amount of money spent on marketing, advertising, and so on. And what we saw that actually risk level didn't increase at all after we renewed issuing loans after June. So it means that we collected very good customers for less price than before, and because of it we definitely increased our market shares in all main markets.
Mm-hmm. That's actually quite interesting, because as you mentioned already, a lot of the competitors, they stopped lending to borrowers, and because they couldn't grow as much as you did. You said you hired a lot of new talent. And which positions did you hire new people? What were the main positions that you wanted to fill in order to grow your lending business?
We were looking for actually all categories of people in risk, marketing. In these positions, it's always very difficult to find people from our business. But we managed risk, marketing first of all, verification maybe later, but also again kind of issues, because it's very hard to find specialists with proven record of success. But we found really good talents within this time. Risk, marketing, I would say, verification, these main positions.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about the financials for last year. You mentioned that the profit for 2020 was over 10 million. Can you maybe go a little bit in more detail? What was the revenue of the Aventus Group? Which lenders were the most profitable versus the least profitable? Can you give us a brief overview of the financials?
Yeah, in brief we can. Of course, I will publish reports later when they will be prepared. But I would say that the most profitable business in our group are Poland, Ukraine. These were the main drivers of our success. We also had quite good results in Russia. So these are the main markets for us, and we are quite happy to have good results there. Kazakhstan were not so good because of lockdown situation there. But because of the level, I would say our main markets are Ukraine, Poland, Russia. So in these main markets we had good results, and interesting thing also we had good results in leasing products as well. We have not so many leasing companies, but we have in Ukraine and Kazakhstan they also showed profit. Moldova also showed that it's a quite small company of our group. So I would say that we were quite lucky with big markets which were successful for us, and we are still continuing growing in these markets. Now it's more complicated, by the way, because for instance in Poland or Ukraine we are quite big players already, and it's very hard to develop this business later because it's more difficult to find new customers. This issue we are now facing. But because of we used the situation during COVID just to increase our market share, we are now in much better position than before.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the financial reports, last year I had a talk with Slavek. We discussed some of the reports, and last year it took up to 6 months to publish some of the financial reports of individual lending companies. You think that this year is going to be faster, that you have better processes with the auditors and you can reveal some of the financial reports faster before of the mid-2021?
We improve, of course, some of our internal processes, but still I think because of legislation in every country, we are not like hurried to publish them very fast. I mean, still we are getting financial documents from previous years, so I think it will be like May, maybe April for some companies. I think like until June everything will be published for sure.
A very hot topic amongst PeerBerry's investors are the consolidated financial reports for the Aventus Group. I'm aware that those have not been published last year because you're not required by any law to do it. Can you comment on, or can you explain why there are no consolidated financial reports for the Aventus Group?
Yeah, very good question, thank you. So, what can I say about it? You know, the problem is that in Aventus Group we have now close to 30 daughter companies, 30. And the problem is that it's not easy to consolidate. And we always, in our company, look to efficiency and money spending. We never spend money on the project. We don't see like how to say the profit or why to do it. To consolidate all the group, now it will take lots of time and money for sure. And I'm not sure actually that it's needed for us to get some, added value. Because we show quite in transparent way the data of each loan originator, and PeerBerry investors, they invest in every loan originator, not like in Aventus Group, like something, right, on the top. And I think from this point of view, the interests of investors are protected in the best way. Other issue is like as follows. In some countries like Russia or Ukraine, we have several companies. In Ukraine, 4 companies, Russia also 4 companies, yeah? And ownership is not straightforward. I can explain why. For instance, in Russia, we have a license under Central Bank of Russia. So if, for instance, we get like a claim from customers, potentially it can mean that one company can lose license one day. And if all the company related through ownership, potentially other companies can lose license as well. So in some markets, we try to have several shareholders just to protect the business. And again, this is an issue of how to consolidate in this way the group when even ownership is different in some markets, I would say, because of protection of our business, and of course protection of investors' interests. So I would say currently, until we are not going to stock exchange, I don't see like a real added value from this action. Again, it will cost lots of money, lots of time, which could be spent on business itself, than just on something which doesn't create like a real added value. So far for this year we are not planning to do it, but maybe later when we definitely see like that this is a must already for our group, most likely of course we did it. But we are at this moment not in the position to look for funding from stock exchange or from other external sources. We have more than enough actually funding for our activities, and we have, by the way, the issue, but most likely this year we'll take significantly less amount of money from PeerBerry, because we generate quite significant profit, which we put 100% to our business. And this also shows that these procedures, external procedures, are not needed actually for us. This is the reason. But of course, every loan originator will show the financial reports, and I'm sure that PeerBerry investors will like them for sure.
So in this question, you already answered several other questions which I wanted to ask you. But you already mentioned that you're not planning to go to the stock exchange. Many investors were wondering if you have plans to issue bonds. Is this something that you will consider in the future? Because a lot of the competitors or larger financial groups are issuing bonds on stock exchange, and for many investors, it seemed to be almost like a bit more safer investments, as the capital structure is a bit different with bonds versus loans. So can you comment on that?
We investigated this topic, but for us this is not needed at this moment. As I told you, that this year most likely we'll need significantly less funding from PeerBerry than before. And I don't know why we need to go to stock exchange, because we don't need so much funding, by the way. The main issue of our business now, that in these matured markets, for instance like Poland or Ukraine, for us it's extremely hard to grow now. For us the main topic now just to keep actually volumes like they are, or maybe grow but in not big numbers, because it's very difficult. For instance, in Ukraine we are number 2 player, in Poland like something between 5 main players, and we are not going. What actually COVID situation showed for us, I can say. We reviewed all of our products, and we closed some companies which were not profitable, but they, like us, they are very small. For instance, we understand that leasing companies for in such markets like Russia or Belarus, they are not like have big future. So because we had very small volumes, we decided to refuse them at all. Yeah, we also understand that, for instance, installment products, they are extremely complicated in our business, in online business. So also we decided to keep the products we have, to keep the successful products, successful companies, but not to develop those who are not successful. So that's mean actually we decided to be concentrated on online, actually PDL business, short-term lending business, which is very profitable for us, but this business not require too much money. This is also true. So from this point of view, there is no need to go to stock exchange at this moment. Maybe later, in several years, we are thinking about IPO. It could be so, but it will be not this year. And I explain why. This year we are thinking about very active development in Asia markets. I actually can share with you the information that this like first half of 2021 will be opened in Kenya, India, Philippines. We are already working in Sri Lanka. We are working in Vietnam. In Vietnam, we definitely will increase volume significantly during first half of 2021. But again, this will be new companies in our business. Again, volumes of funding for them is not very serious, I would say, in the beginning. So money we have will be fully enough. And again, we are not offering new companies for investors until we don't see the real results. It's also like essential. It's also quite safe for investors.
I'm aware that the lenders in individual countries they are often audited by local auditors. Some investors are wondering whether you plan to audit those companies also by one of the big four auditors. Is this something that you have in the pipeline for the future?
Again, this is the same situation like I told before. We always look on money spending efficiency. In case we have like auditors, not big four, but number five, for instance, we will use them because they are cheaper, more efficient, and we fulfill all requirements. But I can assure all the investors we definitely use like big audit companies because these results are needed for us, like shareholders as well. So we always choose like trusted partners for such operations because they are even more important for us, like holding company, like even for investors. This is our point of interest, I can say. But we do a competition among auditors, but if the price difference is so high, there is no need actually to pay more when we can get the same result. And this is also because of this funding, you know, if we would go to stock exchange, for instance, and separate country like Kazakhstan or Russia, then of course we would do this. But for this moment, we are not planning because we investigated the price of funding on local markets. We can do it actually easily, and we get offers from, how to say, companies who can help to get this funding locally, but the price of funding is quite high, and for us it's much better at this moment to deal with PeerBerry, with investors, with trusted partner, where we have already good record, than trying something new, then the price of funding will be not cheaper. And again, it will require so a lot of attention of our money. It's much better to put this attention or like people or specialists to our main business like we do now.
Now a bit more of a personal question. In 2020, a lot of governments introduced travel restrictions, and some investors are wondering whether you personally have been able to visit some of the countries and the lenders, or if you have managed everything remotely maybe, and what skills are you think very important for you to be able to manage such a broad portfolio of lending companies?
Fantastic question, thank you. So I can say that now I'm traveling like it was before. Even like before Christmas I was in Russia, for instance, where it was just impossible to come in. So I get like a medical visa, like one, maybe in Lithuania I was not maybe only, but like among 5 people who got with permission to come to Russia, and I know the way. Now I'm in Ukraine, as you see. So I'm traveling like it was before, with no restriction at all. Just I'm now prepared for this, and for our business, this is essential to see the business on place. But of course, I had like 4 months when I couldn't visit companies, but because of our quite unique structure inside of Aventus, we managed to deal with the situation very easily. And I can explain how we did it actually, kind of our small secrets from inside. No, Aventus is quite efficient company, as you see, according to results, and quite successful, because we did this success within like maybe last 5 years, but the company it's already on the market like 12 months, close to 12 months. But the main growth was last 5 years. How we did it? What was the secret of it? In every country, we understand that the CEO is the main person. CEO is the main. So we always look for the best CEO we can find on the market. Then we give for him quite broad freedom of actions, which is maybe not usual for financial business. But I'm understanding it like a business, like ordinary business, and everything depends on this main person. So when COVID started, we were in a situation where on every position we had like the brightest people with serious motivation, by the way, as well. Like financial part was also quite significant. And they had, from the very beginning, freedom of action without headquarters, like decision or something. And we also understand that in such big international markets, business like we have now, like close to 10 countries, we can't understand the situation in every market better than local people do. So we trust here. Sometimes we lose money because of this trust, especially on this Eastern market it happens. But still we are getting much more because we trust local people and we give extremely high level of freedom of decision. That's why when our traveling stopped, nothing has changed for us. This was essentially key to success because our local teams used to work before that in such a way without like very active participation of headquarters. So this was the reason. Now I had no problem at all. I can travel every country we have business. No, maybe in Asia it's more complicated, but because we have quite small volumes now, it's not needed to do. But even in Asia, we have, for instance, our European CEO sitting now in Sri Lanka. So like working from there with all the visas, working visas needed for it. Again, this is quite a rare case because in Sri Lanka we are now the only lender who is working. Again, this is very good for us. Somehow we always find a way how to solve the situation. This is again our like key of success. If you can't go to Russia, think how to go. You find medical visa on the end of the day, you know, and so on, so on. So it's complicated, of course. There are no direct flights. For instance, when I fly, so for instance, in Poland, I need to travel somehow from third country, not from, for instance, I don't know. It happens sometimes. I need every time to check how I need to come to this country, not to see it on quarantine. It's quite funny. It's a little bit more complicated, but I want to say that this is a very rare time for all of us. And in Aventus, we understood it in the very beginning that it will happen maybe in 100 years from now. So this is a very rare opportunity to definitely change something, to make something very serious. And I can say that's why we had no panic inside. Maybe second or third day we began to think, know how to protect our business, you know, but how to develop it. And it helped a lot, you know, when we were thinking in positive way, not how to lose, you know, how to say, but how to develop, then you have just opposite energy. You have immediately like this positive energy of business development, and this is something I can say, and that's why we succeed to get such results. One of the reasons.
It's definitely for the investor. It's good to see that you have really that growth mindset and that you have the right people at the right positions, and you also really understand that cultural aspect plays a big role in every business, and that you know, the people that are in charge in those Eastern markets, that they understand the culture and they can work independently without micromanagement from you know, from the management, like from the Aventus Group itself. So it's a very sustainable way, I think, to grow in those markets. You mentioned that you plan to decrease the volumes this year in certain markets, and investors are wondering whether the interest rates on PeerBerry are actually sustainable because of the demand from PeerBerry investors is growing, and you mentioned that the lending volumes will decrease. What would you comment about that?
For 2021, what I see that most likely short-term financing, like our core business, will be developed, of course, in Aventus, but not so fast like it was before. That's true. Second question is that we are earning more profit than before, so, and all the profit is invested in our business, so we don't take it from the business. That's why most likely in 2021 the demand from Aventus for funding from PeerBerry will be not so high like it was before. That's true. So from the point of interest rate, I can say that most likely interest rate will not become higher for sure, because we don't see like a need for funding. But maybe they don't go too much, they will not become less, because still we have like market situation, and I understand from the point of PeerBerry, if PeerBerry will offer less interest rates for investors, they will just go to another platform, which is also not okay. But I can say that for 2021 we have already very interesting products and projects for our investors and for ourselves. We have already started a new product we'll introduce quite soon. It is Aventus development. These are property real estate development projects, and we already started them in 2 countries, in Ukraine and Russia. We have already bought 3 sites in city center of Kiev in Ukraine and 2 sites in Moscow city center and for development. And these are quite significant projects and quite big in terms of funding. Most likely part of money will ask for PeerBerry or just offer for investors. But this is extremely safe investments because we managed to purchase these sites significantly less price than they are on the market because of this COVID situation. Significantly, I would say like 2 times maybe even. We just use the situation for us, and I see this is a very good opportunity for investors and for us to develop our business in future, because I understand that short-term lending, how to say, it's limited. Of course, we are increasing it for sure. We go to new market, and 2021 will be extremely interesting year for us because of Asia. As I told you, India, Kenya, it means Philippines will be opened within half a year. And these are very big markets. And most likely in some time we'll offer these loans to be financed from PeerBerry for investors, but only after we get the results. Then for 2021 we definitely see potential in Russia for sure, because in December totally we issued like 60,000 loans, but I can say that the biggest player on this market issued 2,040 loans. So we're still 4 times less than the biggest guy. And I think that our ambitions are always to be among top 3. So it means that in Russia we can, I don't know, increase our volumes 3 times, and this is huge market, and already the market which proved results for us and for investors, for everybody. So I think that Aventus, of course, will be developed this year, and I would say because we are already quite big, in terms of percent will be not like the biggest development. For instance, maybe if we grow like 30% in total, it will be already very good. But last year, most likely, our growth was higher than these numbers. But this only because we have already quite big base, and this reason. And of course, this property development, again, new opportunity. It's very safe opportunity because we bought these sites, by the way, using only our money without any external funding at all. And we are now in the process of development, so the value of the sites is increasing every day because we go to the process of getting permission for construction, and location are central, and Kiev and Moscow are still quite big cities. Moscow like 15 million people, Kiev 5 million. So I would say these are extremely interesting products or projects for investors and us as well.
Investors on PeerBerry, they are well aware that Aventus Group reinvests a lot of the profits, and that you don't borrow as much money from PeerBerry's investors because you apply sustainable lending practices and try to grow organically. But there are also investors wondering what is the current gearing ratio, what is the current leverage that you have when it comes to lenders that you list on PeerBerry.
I can say the total loan portfolio as for today is 87 million euros. It's total with default, without like pure net loan portfolio, without any interest, without DPD like 15 days, so with no DPD is like 47 million euros, and the debt to PeerBerry is 23, but we have like 8 million on account as well. So it means like less than 40% is leverage at this moment. And I would say we use like 50-50, like own money and PeerBerry money for the growth, like 50-50. So this is extremely safe. And what is also interesting that we are dealing with short-term lending. What does it mean? If situation like COVID like will happen again, like COVID-2 or COVID-3 or something, right? We can stop lending, and if it happens, we collect all the money within 30 days, like 70% of money, and it's more than enough to cover everything immediately, like we did in March and April. So this is like a model of business which is very safe for investors because we are not dealing with loan products. We have loan products like leasing or installment loans in some countries, but in terms of our portfolio, still these are little numbers. Majority of portfolio is in short-term loans, which are like extremely liquid for investors, just because we can stop issuance, collect money, and pay immediately, like 30 days. And again, we keep quite significant amount of money on accounts always.
Do you have also access to other alternative funding sources, or do you just use your own money and PeerBerry's investors' money?
You know, we always get proposals to take some money from our institution, but so far we don't see like why we need to do it, and we refuse actually. For instance, in some countries we were offered to issue bonds, as you asked me before, but again, when we calculate the numbers, we see that there is no need actually to do it. Again, complicated structure and no cheaper funding. We don't see like the purpose why to do it at this moment. Maybe in future, but when we have quite low leverage, it doesn't make any sense for now. You know, for property business, of course, we'll go to local banks for sure, because this is different business which requires quite significant capital, and this is normal business for banks. And we can get definitely significantly cheaper funding for such products. But again, what is good for investors, we can go to the banks with property only when something is done, right? So maybe in the initial stage we'll use P2P money, or maybe like alternative funding, non-bank, something else.
Aventus Group is operating in many markets, and you mentioned that you plan to expand in certain African and Asian markets this year. And investors are obviously wondering how you manage the risk of currency fluctuations.
This was a very good question for 2020, where we lost some money because of risk currency, but I would say that the result of 10 million euros profit is after forex losses, after, not before. And what we do, in every market we can do like this hedging, currency hedging, but we understand that this is quite expensive, and what we do, when a local company gets funding from P2P, we just, in our business plans, we add like 15 to 20% annual, and then we calculate like all the results, internal management results, when we take into consideration this interest rate for PeerBerry plus like 20% of potential default because of forex. We can use this hedging services from banks, but we calculate it, but it will be more expensive than not to use them for short-term lending. So this is the answer. The business is short-term, and it's more expensive using like external services than not to use them, for sure. So we did this analyzing and doing always, and we see it's not needed. But by the way, I can say what is good for us, especially in 2021, but the main currencies of our main markets like Russia, Ukraine, now all the analysis shows that this currency will be, by the way, stronger than they were in 2020. So this is very good for us. And according to the starting of the year, it shows us it's true. So last year we lost some money, but again, after even this loss, we are in significant plus everywhere. If this currency will be stronger, and according to like all the banks, most likely this is the case for 2021, then we'll get like a double profit because of it. But again, we always, when we get funding in euros and provide to local companies, we add like 20% in our management calculations just to be protected. And if the company can't pay such high interest rate, we don't give this funding for this local company.
Some of the threats, external threats for P2P investors, are also the revocation of lending licenses in certain countries. Do you see any concerns for the Aventus Group that a lending license could be revoked in 2021 in some of the countries?
You know, this is a risk in every country. It could happen every day, especially in such market like we are operating. But we do a lot, you know, to be protected. As I told you, we have several companies in every market just to be protected from case of licensing. Second question, we are extremely careful in every market. So we do everything in lines with legislation in every country. We have very big legal departments in every country because we understand that we are like foreign investors and we need to be protected, and we do everything in line. Maybe because of this we are not earning so much than we could earn if we would be like not in line with this legislation or risking with licenses. But we understand that it's better to earn less but be safe. And that's why so far for Aventus companies I don't see such risks for sure now at this moment. But it could be like risk of market. For instance, like regulator of one country can change something. But again, because we have quite like good standard business in these main markets, we can work with lower interest rate for sure. We will not like go away because if some kind of legislation will be changed. We are doing our analysis on these markets and don't see like big problems for 2021. But again, we are, how to say, always realistic. That's why we have business in these countries, and we would be very happy not to grow just to keep these markets and collect money, but we go to new markets. And new markets are always a loss, always, because startups are not profitable, as you know, especially for fintech businesses. But it's a must if we need to survive in longer term, to enter new markets, to have new opportunities. That's why we invest a certain percent of our money to new opportunities, to R&D, research and development, because without it, such a group can't survive in longer term. So we think about future as well.
Last year, there was a big financial groups whose license got revoked in Armenia, and by the result of that, a lot of the other lenders under the group collapsed. Do you see a threat that in case a lending license would be revoked in one of your most profitable markets, that it could cause a potential default of Aventus Group?
Yeah, I can explain what can happen. For instance, if you take, for instance, like a company like Poland or like country like Poland, and something legislation will change that we can't issue more loans. What happens? So we collect money from our customers, just cover debt of P2P, and that's all. So this is the worst case scenario which can happen. Then we'll have like 8 more markets, or at least maybe 9 markets or 10 markets, and we'll work there, that's all. So from point of PeerBerry, they don't lend more money than company can pay back. So it means in the worst case scenario, we just lose the market, but investors of PeerBerry will be paid back. But it already happened, by the way, I can say. For instance, last year, we decided to close one Kazakhstan company. We decided to close Russian leasing. Thanks God, they were not big companies, but we lost, by the way, quite significant amount of money for Aventus, but all investors were paid back and nobody actually saw any problems. Because we have inside our group like kind of protection for PeerBerry investors, like a NATO principle. When one company is affected, then another company comes to help it. So like pure like NATO principle, and it works already for many years. So, but it can happen for sure, because when you operate it in like 9 countries, and everything can change, you know. That's why we are not in one company. And in this group, I know the situation that Armenia was like a really key player of the group, but it's a little bit was strange for me why they couldn't like pay back the investors' money if they close like short-term business, because usually you collect all the money plus profit plus interest, and actually you can pay immediately everybody and then go and work with another companies. No, at least in Aventus this is like this. Our companies in this way are independent. They have independent like loan book. So in case something happens, they just pay back all investors and close this country, and we'll be working in different. That's why we're opening new countries now.
No, it's really great, because I myself am an investor on PeerBerry, so it's very important for me to understand the lending practices of the companies that I invest into, and I really appreciate that you took the time to explain how Aventus Group operates. And for me, at least, it seems like a very solid and sustainable way of growing. And I think that's also something that a lot of investors on PeerBerry will appreciate. And yeah, thank you very much for joining me on this interview today. I think we have covered a lot of valuable points, and I hope that we can speak in the future again, and we can look back at this interview and see how Aventus developed this year. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen, and especially when it comes to the real estate real estate investments, this could be quite an interesting asset in terms of diversification for PeerBerry's investors. So fingers crossed, and good luck for this year.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, we are always open to any question, so please come back if you have any of them. Thank you very much, and have a good year too.